Hello, children. I'm Victoria Carlton. You can call me Vicky. I'm going to read you the second part of Joseph's story. So I've read you the first part. You might have already heard me do the first part. And the first part was all about how Joseph was a great favorite of his dad's. He gave him this beautiful striped coat to wear, and his brothers were very, very jealous. He had 11 brothers, and they were all very jealous of him. So they eventually did something really mean to him, right? They did something really mean. They threw him into a pit with a bit of water in it, and he was very sad. And then they sold him to some Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt, and then they sold him once again to a very important man, a man who the Pharaoh king really liked a lot, and he was in charge of his whole army, right? Here he is. His name was Potiphar. Potiphar. So he worked very, very hard for Potiphar. And actually, Potiphar thought that Jacob was really, really good Joseph was really good at what he was doing. So he put him in charge of his whole household. He said, Joseph, you are so good that you can have charge of every bit of the household. Just run it properly for me so I don't have to worry about that. So Joseph did work really, really hard for him. But Joseph was a very handsome man, and Potiphar's wife really liked him very, very much. And she wanted to kiss him. She wanted to kiss him. And one day she tried to kiss him, and he said, Go away, go away. You are Potiphar's wife. I'm not going to kiss you. Just please go away. But she wouldn't go away. And she grabbed his coat, and he just took off to do his jobs because he didn't want anything to do with her. But she went to her husband, and she cried and cried and cried. Here she is. She cried and cried, and she said, Oh, husband, what am I going to do? You know, that person that you hired to look after all of this place, well, Joseph, he's terrible. He tried to kiss me. And look, he even left his coat here. And so he got into big trouble, and he got put into jail because Potiphar believed his wife, even though she was telling lies. So he got slung into jail, and he was in jail for quite a long time. He was in jail for over 2 years, which would be horrible, wouldn't it, to be stuck in jail for that long? But even in jail, he worked really, really hard, and the jailer actually got him to be in charge of some of the prisoners and some of the jobs that needed to be done. So while he was in jail, a few of the other people who were in jail with him, a few of the other men, they started to realize that he was really good at working out what dreams meant. You know how we all have dreams at night? You dream about lots of different things. Well, what he was good at, what Joseph was really good at, was working out what your dream was about, what your dream might be telling you. And he would pray to God so that God would tell him what the dream meant. So it wasn't a power from him. It was actually a power that God gave to Joseph. And so if somebody had a really amazing sort of dream and they wanted to try and work it out, well, then Joseph would help them. He would pray to God and help them find the meaning. So one day, one of the people that Joseph had been in jail with, he'd been released, and he was working for the Pharaoh king. And the Pharaoh king, this is what he looks like, right? The Pharaoh king, he had a really weird dream, and it woke him up, and he couldn't work out what it really meant. It was a very strange dream. And he said to the people in his house, I've had this strange dream, and I don't know. I can't work it out. I need somebody to help me work it out. So he told the people in his house all about the dream, but they couldn't help him. But then this man who served him his wine, who used to be in jail, where Joseph said, I remember there was this young man in jail with me called Joseph, and actually he was very good at working out what dreams meant. Maybe he could help you. So Pharaoh had Joseph brought from jail, brought into his palace, and he said to him, look, I've had a really strange dream. I'm wondering if you can help me work out what this dream means. So Joseph said to him, it's not really a power from me. It's a power from God. God helps me to work out what people's dreams mean. So Pharaoh said, okay, let me tell you. In this dream, I dreamt that there were 7 fat cows. All right, so you can see the black cows, all right, the big black cows, 7 fat cows, but then 7 skinny cows, and they are the brown ones, the brown skinny cows, came out and they ate the fat cows. What could that mean? Why would skinny cows eat fat cows? And then he had another dream. He dreamt about wheat. He dreamt about grains of wheat, and he dreamt that these grains of wheat were big and fat, and they were very, very healthy, and there were 7 of them coming from one stalk. But then there was another stalk with 7 skinny, horrible grains of wheat, right? They'd all gone bad and horrible, and they came out and they ruined the really good wheat. And so he thought, what is this about? So Joseph stood there and he closed his eyes and he prayed. He prayed to God, God, please help me to know what the meaning of this dream is for the Pharaoh. And then God told him. So Joseph spoke to the Pharaoh and he said, God has just told me the meaning of your dream. What this means is that there are going to be 7, all right, 7 years where there will be plenty. That's what the good bits of wheat and the big fat cows meant. There'll be 7 years where there'll be loads and loads of food, and the wheat will grow really well, and there'll be plenty in the land. And then there are going to be 7 years where there won't be very much to eat at all. There will be famine. Famine means that the plants won't grow, right? And people are probably going to starve unless you've got some extra food for them. So the Pharaoh thought about that and he thought, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to save my people from 7 years of famine, going without food? What can I do? So Joseph was praying for an answer to help him. And he said, look, I think what you need to do is gather lots and lots of wheat in the 7 years where everything grows really well. If you get somebody to arrange that lots of wheat will be grown and put into bags, all right, and you keep it in special storehouses so that when the 7 bad years come, of famine, then there will be plenty to eat. So Pharaoh thought about that and he thought, well, who am I going to have to put in charge? Who could do this job? And then he just looked at Joseph and he knew. He said, you're the person. He said, you are the one who can do this. You are a wise, amazing man. And he actually took off his ring. He had a special ring like this, not exactly like this one, but he took off a ring that he really liked and he gave it to Joseph. And he said, here, take this ring. You are now in charge of my kingdom. I want you to be in charge of making sure that people gather the wheat, all right, that they put it into storehouses in the 7 years when everything grows well, so that when we have 7 years of famine, when we don't have very much wheat, the wheat will be in the storehouses. I trust you. with my kingdom. Isn't that amazing? He said, I trust you with my kingdom. And so Joseph became a very important man in Egypt, a very important man indeed. And in the next story, I'm going to tell you what happened when those years of famine came to Egypt. So thank you so much for listening to my story, and I look forward to telling you part 3 of this amazing story. Bye.
For more of Victoria Carlton's tips, go to YouTube and search Victoria Carlton Programs. Victoria's products are available on Teachers Pay Teachers. They cover literacy, emotional intelligence, and Sunday school lessons. Victoria's website address, blog, and email address are on the screen in front of you. Victoria Carlton reserves the right of copyright on all her products.